Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the NASCAR Xfinity Series Rewind Show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below and hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing from Racing News Now going forward. This is a channel where we discuss lots of motorsports, namely NASCAR, ARCA, IndyCar, and Formula One. We do plan to broaden that scope eventually, but for now, that's what we cover. So on today's edition of the Xfinity Rewind Show, we're looking back at last night's 17th annual Coca-Cola Firecracker 250 from the Daytona International Speedway. We went 105 laps in this one, a little ways over the scheduled distance as we did go one overtime period. This one was pretty tame in the beginning. No cautions for incidents until the final stage. We did have 6 cautions on the night, though, for 29 laps. That includes stage breaks. Both stages were won by one Mr. Kyle Larson. And then we get into the final stage. Actually, stage 2 completed with a spin from Brandon Jones off of turn number 4. That was on lap 62. So technically, we had an incident at the end of Stage 2. Stage 3, lap 73 was the first caution there. Not long into Stage number 3, Ryan Reed spun off of turn number 4. And then we had the first big one on the night on lap 83. A bunch of cars getting collected in turn number 1 when Austin Cindric got turned. Most notably in that one were Matt Tifft, Ryan Truex, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Hemrick. Brandon Jones and Ryan Reed also caught up in this one as well. And that set up a little over 12-minute red flag, which, to be completely honest with you, I feel like that should have been a little longer because they rode around under caution for a while after the red flag before they got everything completely cleaned up. I feel like the red flag probably should have been just a little bit longer. That way they didn't ride around under caution for so long, but, you know, it is what it is. Lap 89 incident in turn number 3 between the 55 of Brian Hightower, the 99 of Ray Black Jr., and the 40 of Chad Fincham. And then lap 99, this is the one that set up overtime. Big incident on the front stretch. This was the second big one on the night. This happened most notably involved in this one, Cole Custer, Ryan Reed again for his third incident of the night. Ryan Sieg involved in this one, Brandon Jones involved again as well. So that set up overtime in this one where we got a very wild finish. It looked like it was going to be Kyle Larson, Elliott Sadler side by side dueling it out. Very reminiscent of the February Daytona Xfinity race where Tyler Reddick and Elliott Sadler were in the same position. And then Justin Haley comes storming off the high side. Huge run. Dips it all the way 3 lanes from the top to the bottom inside Elliott Sadler. Takes the lead, but unfortunately dipped below the yellow line by about that much. And NASCAR called it out of bounds. He would be scored at the end of the lead lap, so no first Xfinity win for Justin Haley, unfortunately. And it came down because of that to, again, between Kyle Larson and Elliott Sadler. And again, Elliott Sadler gets beat out by about that much at Daytona. Again, very reminiscent back to February where he got beat out by just a little bit smaller of a margin. The margin in February was .0004 was the margin of victory Tyler Reddick over Elliott Sadler back in February. This margin of victory, Kyle Larson over Elliott Sadler, was .005. So still an extremely close finish, and Elliott Sadler getting beat out by just about that much again. Now, before we get into the results, I want to say this. I've seen a lot around the internet, a lot of controversy surrounding the Justin Haley call at the end of this race. And whether this win got unfairly taken away from him or not, I've seen a lot of people saying that it was unfairly taken away from him. Whether it was unfairly taken away or not, whether Justin Haley got this win or not, whether he deserves this win or not, Justin Haley proved last night he has the talent and the desire to compete in NASCAR. And I tweeted this after the race. he has the talent and the desire to compete in NASCAR. And if I were in charge at GMS Racing, I would want Justin Haley in as many Xfinity races as possible going forward. Obviously, he's running the full season in the trucks right now, so it's hard to kind of pull him out of that when he's kind of in the championship battle there, especially after he won at Gateway, so he's definitely in the playoffs. But any race that he could possibly be in that 23 car, if I were GMS Racing, I would stick him in that 23. Since they've got a rotating cast of characters in that 23 right now, while Spencer Gallagher is out, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't stick Justin Haley in there, because he proved last night he's got what it takes, and he's not afraid to make those big moves to get a race win. And if I'm a team owner, that's exactly what I want out of a driver. I don't want somebody settling for third when you've got the room and you've got the way and you've got the run to make that big move, to take the lead, even if he got a little too over-aggressive with it and dipped down below the yellow line. So if I'm GMS, I want him in as many Xfinity races as possible going forward. We'll see if that happens. I would love to see it. All right, so let's get into the results for this one. Obviously, as we said, Kyle Larson and Elliott Sadler were your top two after Justin Haley's finish was DQ'd. Rest of your top five were Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, and a fantastic top five run for Kaz Grala. Big night for him. And I want to talk about all three of these guys here, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Kaz Grala, Shane Lee in the 3 car, and Timmy Hill in the 66 there in 7th. I know we tend to sometimes get some names we usually don't get up front in Daytona and Talladega races, just because of the way the draft works, and sometimes the guys that were running up front early get caught up in wrecks or whatever. But nevertheless, Kaz Grala had a great run all night. Shane Lee had a great run all night. To be honest, I didn't notice Timmy Hill most of the night. I don't know if he was running up front a lot of the night or not, or just kind of found himself there at the end, so I can't really comment on that. But a great finish nonetheless for these three guys. And it's nice to be able to showcase some different names up at the top than we usually see there. Daniel Hemrick there in the 8th position. Justin Allgaier came home in 9th. And another great run here in the top 10. This one from Ross Chastain with a top 10 run. And Ross Chastain was one I did notice. He was running up there up front a lot, at least at the end of the race. I don't remember noticing him early up front, but he was definitely there at the end of the race competing. I think he got as high as 3rd at one point there in the final laps. So kudos to all 4 of these guys. Kaz Grala, Shane Lee, Timmy Hill, and Ross Chastain, all for picking up top 10 finishes in this one. Great runs for all of them. 11th through 20th, decent run for Michael Annett on the night. One of his better runs of late in that 5 car. Brandon Jones, after all of his troubles on the night, still managed to salvage a 12th place finish. Keep himself kind of in the points hunt. Ryan Truex there in 13th. Justin Haley, unfortunately, after his finish, like we said, was DQ'd. Comes home in 18th, last car on the lead lap. And Matt Tiff there, 2 laps down in the 20th position after getting caught up in that first big one on lap 83. 21st through 30th, a lot of these guys got caught up in accidents at one point or another. We see Cole Custer there in 25th, Ryan Reed 26th. Chase Elliott in the 23 car there in 29th, had a really good run going, and then had some engine problems late. He was out on lap 90, very close to the end of the race. 29th for Chase Elliott. Then we look down here at the last page, 31st through 40th, and the vast majority of these as well getting caught up in accidents. Tyler Reddick there in 31st, Austin Cindric 33rd, Jeremy Clements 34th. Ryan Preece down here in the 39th position. He had an overheating issue there about lap 51, and that was his issue. He started on the pole for the night after qualifying was rained out and they went off of practice speed. So Ryan Preece had a fast number 18 car, unfortunately. Didn't really get to do a lot with it. We didn't really get to see what Ryan Preece could do at Daytona. So I'm sure we'll get a chance to eventually. Ryan Preece is very talented, as we've already seen for the past couple of years, so I'm sure we'll get another chance to see what he can do on these plate tracks. All right, so that is your results from the Coca-Cola Firecracker 250. Now let's head over to the media center and we'll see what your top finishers on the night had to say after this one.
This one hurts. I don't know how many more restrictor plate races I have. I'll be able to race, in my career, and to lose the one like we did in February, so close, and then to feel like we're in the right spot again, and we were really paying attention to Kyle and trying to figure out what he was doing off of 4, and he was running into my door a lot and trying to slow me down, and I was trying to leave myself room to get away from him. And then it was just breakdown in communication that the 24 was coming on the bottom. I could have definitely made a block there and got some momentum, but that hurts to lose 2 races at Daytona, that close. I think that's 3 or 4 seconds in a row here for me. So, like I said, it's been a tough day for me. It's just a lot of stuff going on at home, and winning a race here tonight would have made a big difference.
Yeah, I took the white, I think, as a leader there, and the 7 and the 1 were side by side in my mirror, and my spotter was trying to tell me which lanes were coming, and he said the 7 was coming, so I moved up and to stall him out, and the 1 got a big run and got underneath me, almost cleared me through 1 and 2, and just tried to do all I could to stay on his quarter panel there to get back to his door to stall him out and hopefully just run side by side or hopefully get clear before we start finish line. But that didn't work out. It was kind of hoping the 24 was going to be my help there down the back to get me pushed out in front of Elliott, and also hoping that Blaney couldn't push Elliott out in front of me. We went through 3 and 4. I think I was still side by side with him. I haven't seen a replay yet of the whole lap, but I do remember in my mirror the 24 somehow I think he got shuffled up the track somehow, and then got a huge run on us and got clear the gap that was between the 22 and the 1, and got underneath him and got the win. So I was doing all I could to hold Elliott off to run second, and I didn't even think I won until I got to the lug nut check there, and they have a big screen down there, and I saw a little bit of the replay and saw that he went and clipped the yellow line. So I'd asked about it, and they said they were talking about it, or NASCAR was talking about it, and then about 10 seconds later we were declared the winners. So pretty shocking, I guess, but really cool, get a win here at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. I've been close every time I've ran here, but get caught up in some sort of wreck, either of my doing or somebody else's at the end of the race after leading some laps and challenging for a win. So nice to finally get one.
All right, so let's check the playoff grid before wrapping up here tonight. And not a lot of changes here. Obviously, no changes in the winner column, with Kyle Larson picking up his 3rd win of the season in the Xfinity Series. Kyle Larson, by the way, 3 for 3 in the Xfinity Series this year, undefeated, and does not have another Xfinity race scheduled at the moment. So Kyle Larson could go down as having an undefeated 2018 season in the Xfinity Series. Interesting to note that. But as we look at the playoff grid here, a little bit of change here. Elliott Sadler jumping back up to the top guy in on points. He now leads the overall point standings once again. He and Cole Custer kind of flip-flopping here as Daniel Hemrick stays second of those top 3 guys in points. Only other real change here happened below the cutoff line as Ryan Sieg dropped a couple. Remember last week he gained 2 and jumped over Annett and Gralla. Now they jumped back over Sieg after he had a few issues on the night, getting caught up in a couple of big ones. So Sieg back down to the 15th position. There's Michael Annett moves back up to 13th, and Kaz Gralla back up to the 14th position, but they are still a good ways out right now. 42 points is the gap between Ross Chastain and Michael Annett. So it's getting tougher and tougher by the week for these guys below the cutoff line to get in without a win. And again, as I've been saying every week, the one that I'm looking at right now as being the best shot to get a win is Kaz Gralla. He has been consistently a top 10 contender since getting in that 61 car, and even picked up a top 5 last night in the Firecracker 250. So if any of these guys below the cutoff line is going to win a race, any of them that are running a full season and are eligible for the playoffs, I think it's going to be Kaz Gralla. I might be surprised. There might be another one of these guys that picks it up. I mean, we were surprised by Jeremy Clements last year in Road America, so it's not out of the question for another one of these guys to pick up a win, but I think the best chances of someone outside the playoffs right now picking up a victory before the playoffs is Kaz Gralla. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But I believe that will do it for us tonight here on the Xfinity Rewind show. We got a lot coming up for you this weekend, as we usually do. We'll have a couple of rewind shows for you tomorrow. We'll have a rewind of the Coke Zero Sugar 400. That name just does not roll off the tongue very well. Coke Zero 400 didn't roll off very easily as well, but I got used to it. But now Coke Zero Sugar 400 just doesn't sound right. But anyway, we'll have a rewind of that for the Cup Series tomorrow, as well as an ARCA rewind for the the Fans with Benefits 150 from the Iowa Speedway. That will be tomorrow as well, presumably with a winner interview as we usually have on those. So you want to keep an eye out for that, as well as pole position coming up on Monday at 8 p.m. as well. So you want to keep an eye out for all of that. A big weekend coming up as usual here on Racing News Now. So at that, this has been the NASCAR Xfinity Series Rewind Show. Do not forget to go down below, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing going forward from Racing News Now, and hit that big thumbs up button if you liked the video. And as always, I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.